Hello and welcome in this video lecture series. Today we are going to start TCP header format. So as we know that TCP is a transport layer protocol, and at the transport layer data arrives from application layer will be added a header. So if transport layer is using a UDP protocol, it is going to add UDP header, and if transport layer is using TCP protocol, this TCP header will be added. So TCP header is basically a 32-bit in each row. Like in first row we have source port, destination port, each of 16 bits. While sequence numbers a 32-bit field, acknowledgement number is 32-bit fields, header length is 4-bit, reserved bits are 6-bit, and these are known as flags. Window size is also having 16 bits, checksum 16 bits, urgent pointer 16 bits, and after that optional field will be there. And always remember, this optional field is in byte from 0 to 40 bytes, and the rest of the fields are in bits. So each and every row is 32-bit long, or we can say it is 4-byte long field. So first row is 4 byte, it is also 4 byte, 4 byte, 4 byte, and 4 byte. So like IP protocol, in TCP protocol also header format is divided into two parts. One is called optional part and other is fixed part. So fixed part contains from this first row to fifth row. Means we can say we have fifth rows, each 4 byte long. So total 20 bytes are always fixed. These fields are mandatory. These are not optional. While 0 to 40 bytes are optional field. So same as IP header, the minimum length of this TCP header will be 20 bytes plus 0 bytes. When this optional field is 0, then it will be equal to 20 bytes as a minimum length, while maximum length will be 20 bytes plus 40 bytes, which is equal to 60 bytes. So same as IP header, we can say that TCP header is also varies from 20 bytes to 60 bytes. But as we can see here that we have only 4 bits in header length field, means the maximum number that we can represent by using these 4 bits is all ones, that is equal to 15. So this is the maximum number that we can have by using this 4-bit. So like IP header format, here also we are going to use scaling factor. Means this maximum, means in order to represent this maximum size with this maximum number, we are going to use some scaling factor such that it should be equal to 15. Means it will be 4. So this header length field will be going to store a number that will be received after dividing the actual length of header by 4. So suppose header length is 24 bytes, then we'll divide it by 4, which is equal to 6. So this 6 will be represented in 4 bits as 0, 1, 1, 0, and header length field will going to contain this number in case of header length is 24 byte long. This thing we have already seen in details while we were discussing about IP header. So here let's discuss each of these fields one by one. So the first row is about source port and destination port. So source port and destination ports are 16-bit long. So first thing is that why we are using this 16 bits source and destination port. As we know that TCP is an end-to-end protocol because of having port number. So end-to-end protocol means it is going to deliver a message from port to port. So suppose we have a system as a source and another system as a receiver. Then system to system delivery is a responsibility of network layer. But within the system there are so many processes. So process to process delivery is taken care by this transport layer with the help of port numbers only. Port numbers are used for multiplexing and demultiplexing. So you may think why we are using these port numbers. Actually within the system there are so many processes running at the same time. In a network these processes are communicating through a single shared channel. So by using these port numbers only, these multiple processes are going to connect with a common shared channel, and at the receiving end again by using these port numbers it is going to provide an end-to-end delivery or process to process delivery. So port number is basically a number for the purpose of identification of these processes running simultaneously in a single host or machine. So port numbers are 16-bit long, means we can have to the power 16 port numbers, which is 0 to the power 16 minus 1, that is equal to 02655535, that we have already discussed in case of UDP also. And again these range 0 to 65,535 is divided into three category, which is called first 0 to 1023 port numbers are known as a well-known port, while from 1024 to 49151 is known as reserve port numbers, while from 49152 to 65535 is known as dynamic port. So well-known port number means port number for well-known services. When a port number is associated with a well-known service, it is known as a well-known port. For example, in our daily life also we have some well-known services like police services, medical services, and when we are associating some number with these services, then these numbers are also well-known for us. For example, 100 is a well-known number for a well-known service called police service. 108 is a well-known number for a well-known service called hospitality. So same way, from port number 0 to 1023 is assigned for some well-known services like STTP, port number 80 is assigned for that, SMTP, port number 25 is there, for FTP port number 21 is there, for Telnet 23 is there. While this reserve port is not assigned, but it may be assigned in future. So these are reserved for that. While this dynamic port can be used by any user as a source port in order to communicate with the network. Next, TCP is connection oriented protocol. Connection oriented protocol means resources are reserved. So suppose if we have a system as a sender and it wants to communicate with some other system. Suppose this is Google server. Then connection oriented means first it has to establish a connection with this machine in order to exchange any data, and establishing connection means some resources will be reserved for this connection, means this system is going to reserve some resources or buffer space, and whatever data packets are coming through this connection, it is going to store the same in this buffer. So if this system is interacting with multiple systems, then obviously it is going to assign some unique identification number in order to identify this connection for this host. So suppose there is a process running in this host want to communicate with some process running in this Google. So in order to provide this process to process communication, this system is going to reserve some buffer or resources, and these resources will be assigned a unique identity number, that is source port and destination port number. So suppose the sender is having a port or process called X and it want to interact with some other process in this machine, say it is using port 80. Then this connection will be identified by X, that is source port, and 80, that is destination port. So whatever communication will be performed through this connection, this buffer space is allocated for the same. A unique identification number, which is source port and destination port. Suppose there is some other system in the world and a process within this system wants to communicate with the same process, means this port number 80, and say the port number used by this system is also the same as this system, that is X. See, two process in a single system cannot have the same port number, but two different system can use the same port number for their processes. So this is possible that some other system in the world having the same port number wants to interact with this Google server on the port 80, means it is also requesting for HTTP services. So as TCP is connection oriented protocol, so for this connection also it is going to reserve some resources, and that reserve resources will be identified with this port number X, means source port, and this destination port, that is 80. So this identification is also pointing out to this buffer space. So now the problem is that a different system can use the same source port number, and if these systems are interacting with the same destination port, then identifying resources by using this source port number and destination port number is not effective. Means here problem is that we have two different connection having the same identity number. So how to identify these connections uniquely? So idea is that instead of using this port number, we should use IP address in order to identify these connection uniquely. Suppose IP address for this Google server is IG, for this system IP address is IA, and for this system IP address is IB. So now for this connection, new identification number will be IA, means source IP and destination IP, and for this connection now it will be source IP, that is IB, and destination IP. So now these two connections can be distinguished uniquely by using their IP addresses. But again problem is that suppose there is a two process within the same system, and this second process, say it is port number Y, want to communicate with the same destination port. Then for this connection also identification number as per the IP address will be IA and IG. So now these two identification number is going to conflict with each other. So in order to avoid all these problems, we are going to use the combination of both. Means in order to identify a connection uniquely, we are going to use IP address plus port number, because for any two systems source port number may be same but IP address will be different, and within the system when IP address will be same, then port number will be different. So IP address plus port number we are going to use, which is also known as socket, to identify a connection uniquely. So socket is basically 32-bit IP plus 16-bit port, means it is 48-bit number. Socket is 48-bit number and it is used to identify a connection uniquely. So this is all about source port and destination port in TCP header. Next is, that is second row, is all about sequence number, which is a 32-bit field, and acknowledgement number, which is also 32-bit long. So let's discuss about sequence number, acknowledgement number, and random initial sequence number. So as we know that TCP is a byte stream protocol. So byte stream means we are going to assign a sequence number for each byte. This is called byte stream. In byte stream, sequence number is nothing but a byte number. So every sequence number is going to represent a byte. This is called byte stream protocol. While in case of IP is a packet stream protocol. Means every packet is going to assign a sequence number. So you might have noticed there is a field called identification number in IP header, which is actually used as a sequence number for that packet. While SDLC protocol, which is not actually in your syllabus, but SDLC, which is a data link layer protocol, is a bit stream protocol, means every bit is going to assign a sequence number. So we can say that in case of TCP protocol, every byte is going to be counted by using the sequence number, while in packet stream protocol, every packet is going to be counted through sequence number. So suppose we have a segment at transport layer like this, say this is header and it's data. So every byte is going to have a sequence number. Suppose this is the first byte, so we are going to assign a sequence number for this byte. Suppose it is 100, sequence number is 100. Then this byte will have a sequence number 101, for this byte 102, and so on. Suppose we have total 50 bytes here, so this last byte will have a sequence number 149. So like this only we are going to assign a sequence number for each of these bytes contained by this segment. So this is the meaning of TCP is a byte stream protocol. But now question is that in this header field we have a 32-bit sequence number field. So are we going to mention all these bytes number at this place? Can we store all these sequence number in the sequence number field? No. Always remember that sequence number is going to store the value of starting data bytes only. Means only this 100 will be stored here in this sequence number field. So sequence number field contains the value of starting data byte. Always remember this point. Starting data bytes. So as you are going to mention only first data bytes here in this sequence number field, then how this receiver is going to calculate the last byte? See, this receiver can calculate this last byte easily by knowing the length of this body, means length of this data. As it knows the first byte sequence number is 100, body length is 50, then last byte sequence number will be 150 minus 1, that is 149. So this is how a receiver can calculate this last byte by knowing the length of its data part. The question is that means how this receiver is going to calculate the length of this data part, because in IP we have a field called total length and header length. So in IP, by subtracting header length from total length, we can calculate the length of data. But it is the case of IP, but in case of TCP we have only header length and we don't have any total length field in that format. If you will go and check in this header format, you can only see this header length field, but there is no field called total length. So now question is that without knowing the total length, that is length of this complete segment, how this receiver is going to calculate the body length, because it has only header length field there in the format. And the answer is that here it is going to take the help of this IP. As we know that in the IP header we have total length minus header length equal to data, but in actual this data length is equal to total length of this segment. Let's see here. Suppose we have a segment and here it is header, it is data. So this segment is going to travel into IP packet only. So this is IP packet. So we know the length of header in case of IP and total length of this datagram also. So here it is known the length of this header and the total length of this datagram. By subtracting these two fields, easily we can calculate the total length of this segment. And from that total length, when we are going to subtract this, we will receive the length of data in that segment. So this is how, by using this first byte sequence number, receiver can calculate the last data byte in that segment. So let's see an example here. Suppose here is a system having IP IA and there is a receiver having IP IR. It is using some port number say X, and at receiver side destination port ID is 80. So when the sender is going to send some data to this receiver, as it is first data byte, so it is going to use a sequence number 0. As it is going to send first data byte from 0 to 99. Suppose the sender wants to send 100 bytes of data. So the sequence number for first byte is 0 and last byte is 99. So in sequence number field, it is going to mention sequence number as a 0. In the next time, when it is going to send another 100 bytes from sequence number 100 to 199. So in this case, it is going to use a sequence number of first byte, that is 100. Same way, if it is going to send another 100 bytes to this receiver, means now it is going to forward bytes from sequence number 200 to 299, then it is going to mention 200 in this sequence number, because sequence number always contains the sequence number of first data bytes. Suppose this byte stream lost somewhere and didn't reach to this receiver, means case is like it didn't reach to this receiver. So after timeout, so now the sender is again going to send the same 100 byte stream, means data bytes from 100 to 199 and with the sequence number 100. And after forwarding these data bytes, now this connection is terminated here like this. Suppose after some time, the same source, means a source having IP address IA and having the same port number, wants to forward some more data to the same system, means same IP address IR will be there and same port number. Then let me extend this, means again the system is going to send some data bytes to the same receiver. As it is the first data bytes, means it is going to forward data bytes from 0 to 99 and sequence number field will have the sequence number of first data byte, that is 0. For the next 100 bytes, now it will use the sequence number of first data byte, that is from 100 to 199 byte stream, it is going to use sequence number 100. So suppose this byte stream having the same sequence number was not actually lost in the network, it was just delayed, and now if this byte stream appears here, then this receiver is going to receive two data streams having same sequence number, which is 100. Means here we are going to receive the two data bytes stream having the same sequence number. In case receiver is going to discard this first one and receive it, then there is no problem. But if it is going to discard this byte stream in order to receive this one, then obviously it is a problematic case. But how this receiver will decide? Because it has two data byte stream having the same sequence number. So why we are getting this problem? The reason is that we are always going to start our data transmission with this sequence number 0, so that here we are using the same sequence number in both the cases. So the rule is that don't start your sequence number from 0, always in each and every time. Instead of that, try to use random initial sequence number. So what will happen by using this random initial sequence number? In order to send 100 bytes from this source to destination, say here we are using a random initial sequence number 500. This is random initial sequence number. So we will have the first 100 byte from 500 to 599, and sequence number field will contain the value of this first data bytes, which is 500. Next time again, when we are going to send 100 bytes of data, so the next sequence number will start from 600 to 699, and here sequence number field will be containing the value of this 600. After that, for the next 100 bytes, we are going to use sequence number from 700 to 799, and sequence number field will contain this 700. And let's assume this byte stream is delayed and didn't receive by this receiver. So after getting timeout, again same data bytes will be forwarded, means from data byte 600 to 699 and having sequence number 600 will be forwarded again. And now this connection is terminated here. So if the next time again when this sender wants to communicate with this receiver by using the same IP address and same port, suppose previously IP address was IA and port is X, and here IP address is IR and port is 80. So again with the same system and with the same destination port, it is willing to send some data. So first it is going to establish a connection with this host. Then after establish a connection, it will again going to choose some other random initial sequence number. Suppose this time it is 1025. Then first 100 data bytes will have the sequence number 1025 to 1124, and sequence number field will be containing this 1025. The next 100 bytes will be containing the sequence number from 1125 next of this, right, to 1224, and the sequence number field for this data stream will have 1125 value. So now in case this byte stream got delayed and appears here in this connection, then these two byte stream will have a different sequence number. So this receiver will simply going to discard this byte stream. So that is why always remember that whenever connection is established, we are going to use random initial sequence number in order to start our communication. We are not going to start with 0 always or some other number always. So it is not fixed. We are going to use a random initial sequence number. So the next field is called acknowledgement number. So suppose a sender is sending some data to this receiver, and here the sequence number for this data stream is 500 to 549, means here it is sending 50 bytes data, right? So all these 50 bytes will have a sequence number from 500 to 549. So the sequence number field is going to contain the value of first data byte. This is 500. So acknowledgement number is basically after receiving this byte stream, what is the sequence number of next expected data bytes. So after receiving the byte stream from 500 to 549, the next expected byte stream is 550. So in acknowledgement number, it is going to mention 550. That is a sequence number of the next expected data byte. Sequence number of next expected data byte. So this is basically called acknowledgement number. The next concept is called wraparound time. So as we know that we have 32 bits for the sequence number. In a header format you can check the same, we have 32 bits in sequence number field. So by using these 32 bits, we can assign to the power 32 sequence number for each bytes. So to the power 32 is actually equal to 4 giga. So by using this 4 giga sequence number, we can have 4 gigabytes data in order to consume all these sequence number. So maximum 4 GB data can get a different sequence number by using these 32 bits. In case if we have 4 GB plus 1 byte, means we have a data bytes more than this 4 GB. So all these 32 bits means to the power 32 sequence number will be consumed by this 4 GB data only. So what sequence number we are going to assign to this next data byte? So here we are going to use the concept called wrap around time. So actually we have a sequence number 02 to the power 32 minus 1. So after using all the sequence number from 02 to the power 32, there is some more bytes available, then we are again going to come back to reuse these sequence numbers. Means after consuming all the sequence number, we are going to reuse all these numbers again in case we have a data stream more than this 4 GB. So this is called wrap around. Even if you are going to use a sequence number which is in between, in case of random initial sequence number, we are not going to start with 0. We are going to start with some random initial sequence number in between this 0 and to the power 32 minus 1. Then also, first we will consume all the sequence number up to the power 32. Then we will come back here at 0 and going to consume remaining sequence number. And after consuming all this to the power 32 sequence number, we are again going to reuse the same sequence numbers. So this is called wrap around. Wrap around. And the time in which again we are going to reuse our sequence number is called wrap around time. Means a time to consume all these sequence number in order to reuse the same is called wrap around time. So wrap around time basically depends on the bandwidth. The more bandwidth you will have means more number of bytes you are going to transmit in a second, more sequence number you are going to use in a second. So wrap around time depends on the bandwidth. So today we have discussed about source port, destination port, sequence number, acknowledgement number and header length. Other fields we are going to cover in the next lecture. That's all for today. Thank you.